ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Aloha Pools and Spas Deep Dive Podcast. I'm John Watts along with Brad Cook, and today, who do we have, Brad?
We have the founder and owner of Thursday's Pools, Mr. Bill Khamis. And I have to tell you, to get Bill to do this was not a huge undertaking, but he had to think about it because he had turned down podcasts before. So it's a huge honor for me. And then not only did he allow us to interview him, he allowed us to interview the first part the second time because we had technical difficulties. And Bill, I really hope today's 10 or so minutes doesn't end up with another technical difficulty. But anyway, so welcome, and I appreciate you doing this and look forward to hearing your story. Fascinating story. I love stories like this, that where you start a business and grow it like you did. And boy, did you guys ever grow your business. So take us back to your, tell us, this is your life, Bill. Tell us about your childhood and bring us on up to kind of the present.
Man, Brad, well, first of all, you make me feel too good about that. So don't build me up too much, man. Believe me. I just want to be like you guys. So which is really a lot of the reason why I agreed to do this, because we've known each other a long time now. And we go way back. And so I know what you guys stand for, and I want to support that all I can.
I appreciate it.
But man, you are asking me to go back. So this is kind of the story of how I got into the fiberglass. And so
right.
It really started like when I was a teenager. Before I could drive, I would fly radio control airplanes. And in that club, they would meet once a month. I actually used to sell them a couple of the radios because you could buy electronic kits and assemble the radio for a fraction of the cost. But you had to just be very meticulous, in soldering everything. So they kind of knew that, this teenage kid would sell them the radios. But what happened, I was lucky enough to get into a radio control helicopter at the time. And it was the only one that was available, but it was a good size helicopter. I mean, a good 4 foot long, I would say. But the only body available was like a military style. And everybody wanted that Cavan Jet Ranger, the full fuselage body for the helicopter, but it was not available. Helicopters were just coming out in the whole radio control industry there. So I ended up building one out of fiberglass and got the resin from the automotive, the auto supply store, in little bitty pints of resin, right? And little bags of fiberglass, actually. So, but I built some bodies, and believe it or not, I ended up selling some to the model airplane club guys.
Right.
So I enjoyed all types of building, whether it was steel, paint, fiberglass. But the fiberglass was so cool because you're basically taking a liquid with no form or shape and building a finished product with a surface. Right. And I just fell in love with the whole fiberglass side of it. But then a manufacturer here in town that built NHRA dragsters, they needed them painted, the fiberglass pieces, steel pieces. And since we were painting, we were painting cars at the time, like every other 16-year-old, right?
So this is, you're 16 years old dealing with this, dealing with the NHRA guys, right?
Yes. Yeah. So with the manufacturer who sells to all the NHRA guys. So we ended up started out painting the bodies, the cage covers, stuff like that, wings that they had for them. And then we realized, wait a second, these fiberglass parts, they're paying considerably more for the fiberglass part than they are the paint job, So we figured if we could start building them, and we did. So we started with little cage covers and then wings and canopies, then ended up being the full, NHRA roadster bodies and stuff like that. So we would build the fiberglass and paint them, which we thought that was great. That was two sources of income. But the reality was the fiberglass was more profitable and a much more exciting um,
Uh,
product to build. So at that point, now, we're probably pushing 18, 19 years old. We were, well, actually, no, I got to go back. When I was doing the helicopter bodies, I couldn't buy enough of those pints of resin at the
right.
at the auto store. So I found out there's a place downtown, Superior Oil, where you could buy resin in 5-gallon cans or jugs. And I was just amazed. So now, and believe it or not, at that time, I didn't have my driver's license. I was 15.
Right.
So my brother drove me downtown. The guy came out and he's like, "Well, who is this for?" And he found out,
Right.
we had no paperwork. We weren't registered with EPA, nothing. So he literally gave me that 5-gallon of resin. But the reason I mention that is fast forward a few years and we were buying drums of resin from the same guy. A
Exactly.
couple more years, we were buying totes. But then you fast forward till current time, and we ended up being their largest purchaser, buying tankers, every
Right.
single day,
You
a
went
day.
from pints, or is that right? Pints or half
Yes.
pints of the product? Yeah.
And the point is, with the same supplier, Brad, that's the point I want to make. I mean, talk about loyalty. And even the
Right.
same glass suppliers that we used back then, we stuck with the same ones till to the Owens Corning glass
Right.
actually is the only glass that we use. So
And
to
then,
this day,
yeah.
we stuck with the same ones. But then it ended up we were building the NHRA race car bodies and just all of the parts. And that's where the fiberglass side of it just kept growing. Higher end cars, higher end paint jobs. And that got us into painting race car parts. Well, it turned out if you could build those race car parts, we could make a lot more money, we figured out. So we were building NHRA dragster parts and painting them at that
Okay.
time. So that's how we got, at this time now we're starting to buy drums and even totes of resin.
Right.
Fast forward a few more years, from the same supplier, we were buying tankers, one tanker a day. So
For the purpose of building what's
swimming
that?
pools at this
For the
point.
pools.
Oh, okay.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
But what happened? We built the race car parts, which went on to bigger and bigger parts. We built the race car bodies, and back in the '80s, as you remember, I wanted to build uh, fiberglass boats. So we were going to get into the boat manufacturing.
Right.
Government came up with the 10% luxury tax, completely crashed the market.
Hmm.
So I got familiar with markets crashing, as a young kid. Put everything into building the boats. Still have one of them to this day, by the way. But
One that you built?
yes, yeah,
Both that you built? Okay.
yeah.
I'd love to see that.
and it's a 22 foot,
Okay.
by 8 foot wide runabout. So
Still floats?
man, it actually runs good. It was.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
We were the second company in the U.S. to get a OEM approval for a Volvo Penta's duo prop. So this was back when Volvo Penta came out with the two props, they counter rotate. So it literally backs up like a car, which is different. There's no prop walk like in other boats. But it was the very first duo prop that was out there. That's back when they had patents for it. So now they all manufacture them that
So
way.
you're telling me stuff though that I didn't get to hear the other day. I was
No.
under the impression that you'd always been fascinated with fiberglass, and but you were in the accounting business. So there's probably it's all true, I'm sure, but I'm sure that you haven't gotten there yet, or how does that all
Well,
intermingle?
Well, it's coming up. You mentioned the fiberglass. With all the products I worked with, from painting and metal and wood, obviously built all kinds of stuff. The fiberglass intrigued me the most because you basically went from liquid in a container to a product with surface. It just always intrigued me. So,
Yeah.
but when your dad asks you, you're a young kid, he says, "What do you want to do?" Well, I want to manufacture. I'd love to own a manufacturing company. What does he tell you? He tells you, well, when you go to school, you need to study accounting first, right, John?
Right, right.
So, no, but you get his point. He wanted me to learn business so that if that's truly what I wanted to do, that could give you a better foundation, which in hindsight, it absolutely was incredible. So,
I think that business people want to get straight to business, and they overlook the most important part of business is doing something that works, and that is profitable, and that you can get in business, but that you can stay in business as well. So kudos to your dad for suggesting, and kudos to you for following through with that.
So why pools? You said boats and race cars. What inspired the pools?
Well, we actually did build. So we started building fiberglass products, when I was 20 years old as a business, right? And we did above ground pool ladders. So we got exposed to the pools and the pool products way back when. It was just the Pool and Spa Association, right? Which has evolved a couple of times, as you know. So we were involved in pools way back then. So I was exposed to them. But when I was trying to start the boat factory, and the government did what they did with the tax, so I knew I had to put it on hold. I ended up building my house because I was getting married. And before the house was done, I sold a couple of houses very similar in my neighborhood. So, here I am. I'm like, my wife and I were talking, okay, I'm going to wait till the tax is repealed and start the boat factory. But in the meantime, building a few houses won't hurt, because this was the bubble of the housing boom, right? But they don't repeal the tax, so I ride the wave of the housing boom, and we just built bigger and bigger houses. Just did great in the housing. But rather than taking that money like most home builders and just building a bigger house, I invested in land to build a manufacturing plant, basically, because the intention was to get back to the boat building.
So you bought the land to build the boat factory.
I did, and I built a facility on it. Actually bought a couple of parcels at the time. And by this time, then you get to the 2008-9 period, and we were building very, very large homes, doing very well. Oops, I didn't move the mouse. How's that?
No, you're there.
So we're back. But no, we were doing good building homes up to about 08-09. And obviously the market was starting to crash for homes. And I basically went to my wife and said, all right, this is the time to get back into the boat building. So by then I had the facility ready, I had equipment ready, the financial resources. So when everybody was really scrambling, trying to redefine themselves, I knew I could redefine myself, but where I felt better was I was at least doing it from a point of strength, because I had the resources, not all the money, but let's just say living a very, very conservative financial life keeps you in a better position to be able to maneuver, when times change, right? Because it's not a matter of if they'll change, it's when. But that was the idea. Start the boats up, and I literally ordered a tractor trailer of lumber, because we were going to build the wood patterns for the boats, and started designing some. Had some ideas on which ones. They were going to be very large boats. And my wife wanted a pool. I jokingly say I wanted to stay married. Brad, we would have stayed married anyway. But at this time in life, my home building company, we had a lot of people actually on staff. So we built our own swimming pools for the homes. When we sold the home, if that pool was like a couple $100,000 or more, we would do that pool in-house because we could control it. We knew concrete, we knew gunite, we would do those in-house. My wife thought, well, he's going to bring his crews over and install our pool. Brad, I did not want the mess. I mean, I know what it takes to build a concrete pool. And I do like concrete pools, don't get me wrong. I mean, I had thought at the time, one day I'm going to put a concrete pool in my own house, because we built it for about 12 years. But
Yeah.
but my wife sees, I'm like, no, I just didn't want the mess. And a friend of mine was doing some fiberglass pools, and I'm like, okay, I've seen enough of those go in, on our homes, and they were multi-million-dollar homes also.
Yeah.
So I understood, fiberglass was not the hot tub in the backyard attitude that some people thought it was.
Exactly.
So I had my friend install a fiberglass pool, and I was like, man, if I really don't like it, the next year I'm just going to rip it out and put my real concrete pool in, right?
There you go.
But long story short, it showed up, and when I looked at it close, and I just knew we could do a better job. It was not bad. I don't want to bash her. It was obviously one of my competitors,
Right.
but I knew we could do better, just from looks and installation and structure and stuff like that. So I called my guys up in the shop and said, we're going to build patterns, but not boats. We're going to build swimming pools.
Yeah.
And literally, we changed everything. We designed it. The plan was we're going to design a dozen pools, build all the molds, and take the product to market. By this point in my life, I was like, okay, everything's down. Home sales are next to gone.
Right.
Although I got my builder's license in Florida. So we built houses in Boca Raton, Delray Beach, that area.
Mm-hmm.
So we were surviving, but I knew that wasn't going to be the future. And I knew I did want to stay in the Midwest. So there was no option of moving the family. So it was like, all right, that's, it's going to support what I need to do to get to the next phase. And that was to get ultimately to manufacturing of some fiberglass product. And boats compared to pools had a lot of advantages, and I was exposed more to the pool industry. And I knew pool dealers and stuff like that. So bad but good, or good but bad. At the very beginning, we were working on our second mold, and literally some dealers were knocking on the door saying, we've got to have this one pool from you, because they saw it, heard about it.
Right.
And we're like, okay, we'll just do the one, but we're really busy building molds.
What was the first mold? Do you mind telling me?
Well, it was the Little Bob.
Okay.
And so
Yeah.
Bob is Bob Kavoyan of Bob and Tom, if you know of their syndicated.
I do know
radio.
Bob and Tom. Yeah.
Yeah, so Bob Kavoyan was so awesome. So real quick on that pool design, we designed a little model, a bunch of steps at one end and a couple little.
Can you show the little Bob on this screen while we're
Yes.
talking?
Yeah, I'll do that.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. But it had itty bitty benches. And so we gave the model to Bob Kavoyan, and he's like, no, this is a party pool. I need people to sit all the way down both sides.
Oh, yeah.
So we're like, okay, we'll extend them a couple of feet. He goes, no, I want them extended as far down as you can go.
Right.
So this pool is all benches, John. If you pull it, you'll see it's just all benches. And we're thinking, man, we'll never be able to sell another one. But how do you not take care of this guy?
Right.
So we did. We modified the pattern, built the mold with the intention that, we may never sell it again.
So
but I know
glad
you're
asked
going to
this.
ask.
Right. I love that.
It was our number one seller for the next 5 or 6 years.
Wow.
So what it taught us, we realized real quick, Brad, we knew nothing about what the homeowners were wanting in
Right.
designs. We were designing these real fancy curved with big swim lanes. What we found out was, as we knew, you have to listen to the market. They will tell you what is the demand. I mean, I truly believe in that supply demand
Exactly.
forces. And so
I got you off your train. You were headed to that. You were on your second mode, which maybe I'll find out about that later. But but people started coming around asking you for.
And they did. And so we were building some pools, not trying to sell. I think it's still going. Not trying to sell or promote them at all. And we were getting just strong demands that, look, so-and-so got it. Can we just get one? And literally, you have to realize it was slowing us down. We wanted to prepare the foundation
Got it.
and get the air permits and everything, for the whole deal, because we knew what it took. Um, at least we thought we felt like we knew what it took to build the foundation, which was to have the molds, have the facility, have
Right.
like all of the procedures in place to make it scalable. Too many people, as an accountant, I saw it just being exposed to all the other businesses, and uh, very, very fortunate in the accounting because of what it did expose me to. I saw a lot of ways that we didn't want to do it. We really wanted to build that
Right.
foundation, approach it slowly, and then it's much more scalable so that you're not going back and having to redo stuff. So we wanted to build the molds just as rock solid as could be.
So that's what you wanted to do. Is that what you ended up doing, or did you have to did you turn the business down, or did you find a balance?
Man, it was a rough balance. We did turn a lot of it down, but it did make us very much aware of how strong the demand was going to be. So it was always a balance. Basically, for 15 years, we have never not had construction equipment on site. We knew we had to grow. We knew we had to expand. And so, like right now is about the only time we don't have excavators, earth movers, construction equipment, cranes on site. I think we're at the point where we've developed all that we're going to develop as far as the property size, the facility size, the campus, all of that good stuff.
Right.
But so, I mean, and not to,
Yeah, but
to brag about it.
Okay, so
No, go ahead.
Go ahead.
So, no, go ahead. You're going to ask. I'll let you ask.
well, it was well, I was going to ask about the second pool, and then I was thinking about all the construction that you've got going on. You've got a big facility. I'm coming up there next week, and I've heard about it and seen pictures of it, but I can't imagine that I think you put out 3 new molds last year at least, or between last year and this year, so you've got at least 3 new, and you're getting into a growing category here, and I can let you talk more about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
But it sounds like you may be putting a hold on any more construction by building, but I was assuming you've got one shop where you're out there tinkering with molds and new designs, I'm assuming.
Yeah, no, correct. So when you get here, you'll see the land's all developed. It's 104 acres with, more than a few 100,000 square foot of manufacturing facility.
Whoa.
In the manufacturing is a pattern shop. So yeah, we were able to build a few of the molds, new ones last year, some big, some small. I'm going to wait for you to tell me which ones you think are going to, be good.
Are going to sell better.
Do you have a favorite in them, or?
Well, you cut out there. Say it again.
Oh, do you have a favorite in any of those new designs?
In the new designs, well, the Mac Daddy, and it's got a counterpart that I don't remember the name of it. It's changed up a little bit, but the Mac Daddy is one that I brought in because it's got a tanning shelf in it, a nice big set of entry steps, a hot tub in it, and a long swim lane. And when you look at it broken up in parts, you think, well, that 8-foot swim lane is kind of small, but it's 8 by 40. But when you look at it, all the surface water there, and so imagine yourself on a float. There's a lot of pool there, and there's a lot of surface area there. So I spend a lot of my time when I'm in a pool. I spend most of my time laying on a $7 or $8 blow up mattress, and that's just like I've got this one that's thick enough to hold me. So I've got what I do on the water, and but I was in a backyard the other day. I don't sell pools as much as I quit selling pools for 7 or 8 years, and this year I thought, I'm going to get in and learn HubSpot and sales message and all the technology that we're using. So when some of my older salespeople say, well, I can't do it, well, I say, well, I'm doing it. But anyway, fascinating getting back, my favorite thing to do, and try to keep this not about me very much. But I was talking with a customer about one of these I have in stock, and I was going to say, I said, I'll take some money off this one if you want to take this one out of stock. And I think they're going with an Aspen. which is extremely popular in our area. But that the objection of that 8x40, I just think there's a lot of room in that pool, and it's really cool. And you know, I'm not a huge fan of year-round hot tubs from a daily perspective, but I said they were talking about hanging out with their adults. They have adult area, and I said, why don't you take this pool and make the hot tub, not a hot tub, but just part of the pool. We put a stilling line in where you fill one body of water, and and we put a skimmer and a drain and jets in there just to make sure water's turning over appropriately, but it all be tied to one filter system. And then we can valve it to where if you want to have a little bit of fun with it, during the season, you take your heat pump and valve it to where all of the water that you're pulling from the pool is, or you're heating this. You can make it where you can heat only the pool, or you can heat the only the spa area, or you can heat the spa area and let it spill into the pool. I mean, you got a lot of options where, and just the adults you can have a warmer spot for a little bit, knowing that eventually it's all going to equalize and be the same. But for an evening, you have options right there, and just sitting around having your drinks and across from one another. I think it's great, even if you don't want to use it year round. I don't know where you are on that, Bill, but I love the thing.
So I love hearing the dealers like yourself describing and talking about it. So John, he hit it on the head. Because we were struggling. We did the Aspen, great big sun deck, a lot of creativity, looks good, eats a little bit of the swim lane up. And we were kind of stale for a couple of years. We couldn't come up with good designs. And we listened to people like John and the dealers saying, this is what they're looking for. But what you heard Brett go through was that list of all of the things that they wanted. How can you get those in one pool?
Right.
And I'm going to credit Annie Brock. She was the one who came, because we had several designs, that were like, just didn't make, looked good on one aspect, but just didn't make you feel completely good in your stomach, right? When that one evolved, everyone looked at it, showed it to others, and it was like no critiques, no negative critiques on it. It really did have a little bit of everything for everybody, from the spa to the wet deck, the swim lane. And when it's down in the ground, those wet decks, that's not deep water, but it has a very good footprint. It's a good big rectangle. So the pool looks like the Mac Daddy, just looks like it's got it all. So obviously it was just released. The demand for it looks good so far.
Good. So, I'm glad to hear that.
It's, we're always nervous when you bring a new model, how it's going to do. But fortunately, it's going real good. I think it's going to be very good.
So I would like to get one with an automatic cover on it, and have it to where the cover pulls back, and the customer has the option of using the auto cover as the cover for the spa, which I think you put the floating blanket on it as well, just to hold down on the energy costs. But I can see that as being a very viable option for somebody that wants to use that year round. In the case where this particular customer, it seemed like a better fit just to put them a hot tub up on their deck, and then that way they would have the hot water that they could control for $15 or $20 a month, and because the other was, what a hot tub like that is going to cost daily use with not a super, insulated area. It's going to be more, but the price of that, it's worth it to a lot of people just to have that whole setup, of that all in one body under one cover and all. So, but don't you also have when I said its counterpart, a model like that has a shelf and two sets of steps, or
that's correct.
I don't remember. What's the name of that model?
Then is that the A36? I honestly can't recall that model. It's so new. I can't recall the model number. I should have checked on that before I got on. I do know the design because I was a big part of building it, actually.
Okay,
So,
so do you remember what does it have a set of steps on the end and then two
both ends.
shelves
It steps
or
on both ends and shelf to
step?
sun deck in the middle.
Okay, right.
Yes. Yeah. And what's good
Yes.
about those,
So if you can imagine it, go ahead.
yeah. Well, what's good about those models you're describing, the auto cover, because of the rectangle, you can put the under track,
Hmm.
perfect setup for the auto covers.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. That's all we like to do on auto covers. It just makes so much
yeah.
sense to keep the friction off the cover by keeping it where it's only rolling over the top of the water. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that yeah,
Yeah.
and that goes with Aspen and Little Bob's, Little Bob LX, and a lot of your models are rectangular and easy to cover in that manner.
Yeah. And
Um,
when you do the under track, my gosh, it just is a good finish. You have so
so
many options.
and the first the first beach entry fiberglass pool I've ever seen, and as far as I know, the only company in the world that makes beach entry fiberglass pools is this guy right here.
Yeah.
Uh, and the reason I thought of that because is we built a Sandal Beach, the curvy one, and the guy
Mhm.
wanted an auto cover on it, and we it turned out really well. We're really proud of it. But the auto cover, the only thing that he complained about, and maybe I should have ran the auto cover a little bit longer, but the cover ended and there's a gap because we sloped the concrete down to the beach entry. And so the
Yeah.
beach entry really starts, or the entry starts out in the concrete. And so, but automatic pool covers, we use the same company. You guys are practically next door to in the
Oh,
world.
they are.
Yeah, yeah, and they're an excellent company to do business with. I need to get them on, but they created edge bar, the edge that pulls the cover out there, and I think the customer is satisfied, at least that we were going the extra mile to try to make sure that end, like the tennis, if they throw the dog a tennis ball, and it rolls down that, it rolls under the cover there. That was, and maybe I get with your people when you guys say, well, you should have made the cover 4 feet longer, and it handled that, but yeah, but it turned out remarkably beautiful. However, I would have given anything if they would have just taken the rectangular one, and we wouldn't have had to sit around for another day or so trying to make that all work.
I
But
still think a beach entry is really neat.
oh yeah,
I didn't even
Yeah.
know they existed
Oh,
until I started working here.
yeah, for sure, and I'm sure that's been a good seller for you guys as well, right?
it has. The trick there was to figure out how to build that fiberglass pool that could be it's a true beach entry. So,
Yeah,
so exactly like what you did. All you have to do is slope that concrete, and there is no edge whatsoever. And then the beauty was it's
yeah,
available in the rectangle and in the freeform style. So,
yeah.
but you're right, Brad. Work with automatic pool covers because they're here often. They'll make
Oh,
that
really?
cover work perfect for you. Cover it all and lays it out. So, yeah, but think about that. What other manufacturers can offer a true beach entry like that? So,
Yeah, if there is somebody, I've not seen it. And
yeah.
if you have somebody that's elderly that would like to get into the pool, it's just the super no brainer because you could just walk right in there
Yeah.
without having to
I'm
take
thinking of my dogs.
one step. Yeah,
Yeah.
Running in and out.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they would.
Yeah.
I'm sure. Yeah, exactly. Small dogs, especially, they can find the depth that they're comfortable with. 'Cause I built us a gunite pool at one time, and our dog. We moved from the beach entry pool where she loved it to it was a tanning shelf there, and it was too deep for her, and so the last few years of her life, she didn't like getting in the water. I hated that for. Her. I
Yeah.
told him, we were watching it one summer, and I was like, this fall, I'm going to tear all this out, and I'm going to put her, put that baby, a shallower area in and retile it and all that. And I never did do it, but
Yeah.
yeah.
So shifting gears a little bit, I wanted to know how you came up with the name.
Ah, what a good question.
So it's my wife actually did that. So I was a home builder for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and when you're a home builder, you use your name. I was Khamis Builders, right? If you think you're going to stay in business, but if you think you're going to flake out, or so many home builders go bankrupt, they'll use Metro or Keystone, or you don't use your name. So myself, most of my family was there together, my wife, a couple of the people that are working with us, and we were going through the names of what's available on the website and everything. We had researched, we were working on it for quite a few weeks. And then somebody said, well, what about Khamis Pools? And it just didn't really ring a bell, it didn't.
Right.
It just didn't have the impact that we thought it would have, like in the housing and stuff. But my name Khamis is, my parents were Aramaic, spoke Aramaic. In English, Khamis means Thursday, actually.
Ah.
And so my wife said, well, what about Thursday pools? And like every good husband, I looked at her and said, don't be silly. That's crazy. Nobody's, what does Thursday mean to anybody, And then she said, well, your weekend starts early with us then. You got a good tagline.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah. John, I made the fatal mistake of shooting it down again.
No.
My sister-in-law, who worked marketing for a very large company, said, Bill, you need to think about this for a second. And she went through the list of everything that would be good about the name of Thursday Pools. It's just different enough that people are going to remember it. They're going to, it's going to process in their mind. They're going to forget Aqua and Blue and, all the other names.
Not.
Right.
But they're
going to confuse it.
Yeah, she said, you will be surprised because you're going to hear people call it Tuesday and Saturday. And amazingly, she was right. We have literally had people say, was it Tuesdays or Saturday?
Right.
For some reason, there's some correlation there, and it literally happened. So I did,
Saturday's weird.
as every good husband should. I said, okay, wait a second, maybe you're onto something there, and that's where the name Thursday came from. It's actually
and no connection to Thursday Boots, which is another company named Thursday. Are you familiar with them?
But there's Thursday Boots, and there's another Thursday company out there also in leather jackets or something, and maybe they're related to the Thursday Boots.
Okay, yeah,
Boots, but no connection there. So, but
froze up a little there again.
Yeah, that was the quick story how we got the name, but it turned out to be great because what my sister-in-law had said, if people inquire about the name, that's half of it, means it's processed in their mind much more than just hearing a name once and never relating to it again. So there was the marketing side of it. That's why Thursday.
That's such a good story there when that is your last name, and wow, I did not know that.
Yeah, that's
great.
Bad
side this is really good. Though, Brett, the bad side is how I shot my wife down, and I didn't shoot her down. It makes for a better story, John.
Did she tell you so now? I told you.
Very much so. Very much so. But,
I love it.
That was where the name came.
And something that Bill told me a few days ago was that somebody gave him some sage advice about advertising and hiring reps and all. And you recall what I'm talking about, Bill?
I do. So what it was, John, you're talking about the business model when you're starting a business, right? And so everybody's got their method on how you put your plan together. And one of the questions was, well, you're not spending anything. What are you going to allocate for sales or sales and marketing? And when we went through the numbers, there's a lot of theory that gets into pricing and how you approach pricing. And most people, I don't want to say do it in a wrong way, but do it in a way that I kind of don't agree with. You really have to determine what the demand is of the market. What does it bear? And then you have to determine where your model can fit into there and not. And what the mistake you typically see people make is they force it. And the short answer is, if somebody says, well, I can only make this work if I force it, what should I do? Well, the answer is look for another industry, change it. It's you shouldn't do it then. And the only way our model worked at first was to put all of the money into the product itself, the cost of goods sold, the cost of manufacturing. And that allowed nothing for sales. And so we had to decide, can we approach this market, break into it from nowhere with no name, no history, no real reputation, and enter that market with zero salespeople.
Right.
And the short answer is the best approach is then the product has to pull the demand, rather than going out and pushing and informing and getting the demand out there, finding the demand. You need the demand to come to you and pull it from you, which meant we could have no salespeople. And to this day, we still have no salespeople. We had one salesperson for a couple of years, ended up being a great, great friend of mine, long since retired though. And it was good to get some experience and knowledge with him and from him. But we have no salespeople, John.
Interesting.
We just have people that take care of customers. And we have two types of customers. The dealers are our first customer, but we do still have to deal with homeowners to some degree. So, but we don't go out to any of them. There's nobody making sales calls. There's nobody going out. Now, do we look at the market, study it, evaluate it, look at geographic areas, demographics? Yeah, we do, but we do that just all here internally.
Sure.
We don't necessarily go out and try to send salespeople at all. So to this day, we've kept the cost in the product. And it was kind of a bad thing, Brad. It was what worried me about it, because we are a fiberglass group of people building swimming pools. We're not swimming pool people building just fiberglass shells, although I will say we are kind of now, right? But the way it started at the core, we were fiberglass people. We want to build the patterns, the molds, the product, the way we feel is the correct way. Now, the sad thing is, every one of our manufacturers says the same thing. Well, we build the best pool, or we build this, and they'll throw buzzwords out there, this and that. I don't want to repeat them because it'll sound like you'll know who they are and stuff.
Right.
We don't necessarily talk about that. We want the product to do any of that speaking for us, And it did. It worked. Those pools we sold at the very beginning, literally the dealers were coming to us saying, so-and-so told me I have to try one of these shells, because they've installed others and they knew this installed differently, just by its sheer stiffness. And it's not overbuilt. It's not just the thickest. It's not the heaviest. It's properly engineered. It's a very complex laminate schedule. Others brag about the number of layers, and I can't tell you that because it's a little more complex than that as to how you get there. But we have custom-made glass. We have custom-made wovings and stitch mats and everything involved in it. It is a combination of hand-laid and equipment manufactured, which is chopper gun equipment.
Right.
So it's a little more complex on the manufacturing. Some manufacturers are all hand-laid, some are all equipment, which is chop.
Right.
And that can simplify manufacturing quite a bit. The way we do it, it's about 50-50, which means you have the worst of both worlds. Okay. You just have to adjust to it. And then material-wise, it just costs a little bit more. So
you feel like in the engineering side of things, you feel like that you've married the hand laid with the machine laid, to give the customer, to give your product something that you can back and you feel really good about. And I think that's the true testament to that is the customers see and they like it, but they don't have the day-to-day quite like some installers might. And so I can say that the product does speak for itself, where our installers will give us feedback on the strong pools, and they definitely speak highly of your product there.
So what's the future hold? What's the future for Thursday Pools? Where do you see you guys going?
Well, first of all, the future should be here for the Thursday. We want to have the most stable entity that will survive well beyond me, John. So number one, the future Thursday should be here. We tried to build a facility, get the people on board, have all of the procedures, everything, documentation, the foundation built. That as industries evolve, you get down to those last few that are standing, right? You're seeing a lot of acquisitions and buyouts
Sure.
and stuff like that. That's our fiberglass pool manufacturing industry evolving as it should, which is a good thing. That means it stands a better chance of lasting.
Right.
So number one, Thursday should be here long term and on a good solid foundation to well outlast myself. That's kind of what we have tried to build. And
Yeah.
as Brad will see next week when he leaves, that's one of the questions I'm going to have for him is, do you think it is going to be here? Is it built so deep in the culture and everything that it will withstand those tough times? And of course, I want it to be the last one standing. But I won't be that cocky to say that. But I think it stands a very, very good chance of being here.
And I could see from, I could see from here. Sorry if I interrupted, but I could see from here, knowing what I've known and knowing what I know about the product and knowing what I know about how everything's evolving from a builder's side of things, and knowing that the growth of fiberglass pools has been kind of on an upward trajectory for several years now, and what was 3% of the market 20 or 30 years ago is, or not don't quote me on numbers on this, but now it's into double digits on up now as far as market share, and is climbing, and so got a good product, a great team there at Thursday's Pool. So, and I can't wait to come up there and see what you've got going on. But I don't know that I'll have a different opinion once I see that, except it may be a little bit more line in the sand. Yes, it's your guys are built for the long haul for sure.
You did hit on a point there. You're talking about the demand for fiberglass pools. I truly believe, and what I thought I saw and seems to be the case so far, the fiberglass pool shell has some strong advantages. And we couldn't have pulled this off with no salespeople unless the demand was there for the product. I built concrete pools. I'm not against them. Again, I very much like the concrete pools.
Right.
And vinyl liners do have a place also. The advantages of fiberglass, you find out you can speak less about them because the momentum is out there now in the industry of the homeowners talking about it. The number of homeowners that when they recommend a pool to their neighbor, they just talk about the advantages. We don't have to as much, so that the fiberglass pool demand should be strong for a good little bit of time. You never know, can always be surprised, but it's going to be a little more difficult to import, fiberglass pools, because in order to get any reasonable level of quality, they're going to be very heavy.
Right.
And relative to what importing can offer. So, there's a little bit, it's not that there won't be zero imports. We will get them. There'll be some. It'll eat some part of that share of the market. But there's still going to be a substantial amount left for nationwide manufacturing of fiberglass pool shells.
Yeah, and it's happening now. The importing is happening now, and we look at prices on there, but there's nothing that's being done that will move you to even consider it. I can't make sense of it. We look at, we're approached and we look at it, and it doesn't make sense right now. So they're stackable pools. You stack this one model up, and how many colors you're going to have? Which one are you going to run out of first? You're just going to have one color. If you're going to have one color, that, it does just, there's a lot of moving parts on these pools, even though they're, there's one shape, there's different colors, and there's a lot of different shapes, in your line, and you guys, I think you're good.
Well, thanks.
You got my vote of confidence on that.
That was a good question, John. When I talked about the foundation of the entity, now this is a little bit of bragging, but why do I feel good where we stand? I'm predicting something about the future. The next question is, well, but how have you done in the past? And the one test that I think everyone went through was during COVID. And I think it's fair to say we were probably one of the, if not very few, maybe even the only plant that was able to still get resin and glass and all materials, and was prepared inventory-wise on all of them also to survive the whole COVID period and still provide product on a reasonable time basis.
Wow.
In other words, we never missed a beat during COVID when everybody was, it's literally in writing and publications of all the manufacturers out there saying we can't get resin, we can't get, materials, blah, blah, blah. We had over a 30-year relationship with Owens Corning, our glass supplier, and with our resin supplier. So remember that 5-gallon bucket I paid for?
Right.
Or didn't pay for, that I got from that company years ago. Well, fast forward over 35 years later, I could not make the economic argument that it was worth being that loyal to that manufacturer. Let's be honest, there was a little bit of friendship there that was overweighing, hey, it's worth it because I know these people this well, right? But after COVID, I can make the economic argument that by the fact that they allowed us to survive, and not wimpily. I mean, we didn't miss a beat material-wise. That was only because, those mornings they woke up and said, hey, who have we been working with for over 30 years? Who do we take care of with what little bit we can provide? That was Thursday Pools. So we can.
I was just going to say, I'm going to say that you probably paid for that 5-gallon bucket of resin at some point in time, maybe 10.
Did you ever go back
maybe
and
10,000
say,
times over?
Yes.
Whoever did that made a smart move there. Yeah.
That man actually, I won't mention his name, but he stayed working for 5 more years in his retirement just to take care of our account. Just, stayed active. He just recently retired. We're obviously still with them, but same resins. But we worked so closely with them. Brad, when you come next week, I'll show you a few things of what we did, and it took years with their chemist to refine the processes in this manufacturing. And I'll literally just show you so that you can see. We don't go out and brag about those things. I don't want to do it here as much, but you'll see it firsthand if you take a quick tour through here with me. But no, John, that's a good question. I mean, in other parts of that foundation, the entity here is it's 9001 certified, ISO, it's 14,001. So that covers you both on quality and environmental. I know we may be the only, I think, so we have a thermal oxidizer, which is for your air permit and stuff. I think at the most now there's maybe only one other company that has a thermal oxidizer, but we started it back. So what that is basically, if you say, what is it? It's a huge investment in doing what's right and preparing your air permit to be prepared for growth and stuff. And we did it back when it was voluntary, basically. And so we got the Environmental Stewardship Award. We were the 69th company in the state of Indiana to get the Environmental Stewardship Award.
Nice.
And that was a while back. So it's done stuff like that. It has the procedures in place that we literally, when one of the national shows here in Indianapolis, we invite all the other manufacturers to come and visit the plant. And we have been critiqued more than once. Why do you let the others visit? And I'm going to tell you, almost all of them have been through here. Almost all of them. And it is good, because it's a legal relationship that you can foster during an event like that. So, there's no conspiring of manufacturers getting together.
Right.
They wouldn't do that. But you can do that legally during that show. We do. They come. It's good to have those relationships with them, because
Agreed.
anything we do, we want to raise the whole industry.
Exactly. To that point, Friday, we were at the St. Louis Home Show, and I interviewed 2 different pool companies on our mobile podcast that are basically competitors. Not quite like showing them the factory and how the sausage is made so much, but to just to have the conversation, because one, it's nice to kind of share war stories, I guess, if you will, and as I always say, misery loves company. So if you can find somebody that's in the same business as you, to talk about all the battle scars and all, it's always fun. There's a connection there, whether you know people or not. Once you start talking, the conversation flows really well. Speaking of which, we try to keep these things anywhere between 30 and 45 minutes, and I'm sure we're bumping an hour really hard.
I've been waiting for a pause from either of you to remind you the time, but it's okay. We get carried away when we're having great conversations, and we can go on for hours. Turn this into a Joe Rogan podcast.
There you go. It is, but yeah.
Bill, we certainly appreciate your time today. We thank you, and we appreciate Thursday Pools, and thanks for coming on. We'll have to have you on again another time, maybe in the future. We'll talk about all the fiberglass houses you built. I'm just kidding. I thought that at first when you were talking about building houses. I thought that's where we were going.
Bill, I have to tell you, I can't thank you enough, because I have bragging rights that I'm the first person that got to interview.
Look at that.
Great Bill Khamis here. I'm real proud of the opportunity for that, Bill. And I appreciate
thanks again. And with that, I'm going to say this has been an episode of the Aloha Pools and Spas Deep Dive Podcast. And like we say always, Bill, dive safely.